Now, new data from the Health Research Board shows a noticeable surge in cocaine use among younger people in this country. To get a handle on the impact consistent cocaine use can have on a person, I'm joined by a recovering cocaine addict, Conor Harris. So, Conor, you were saying at the age of 17, you can take us back to the beginning.
Yeah, so Pat, at the age of 17, when I first took it, I had no intentions of taking it, if that makes sense. You know, I used to be big into the gym and big into football, which I am again now, thank God. But I was just out one night at a graduation and it got offered to me, and just out of pure curiosity I tried it. And trying it, when I tried it, I knew straight away it was like I fell in love with it. It was like a relationship I formed with it straight away. And that night I knew when I took it that it had an effect on me that looked like no other substance or no woman, no gym, no football had ever made me feel. And I took it that night, and I had a feeling that it was going to be bad, but I just went with emotions anyway. And I went from using maybe on the weekends, from using on a Friday night to Friday, Saturday night to Friday, Sunday night. And within the space of 2 years, I turned 19 and I was already in a treatment centre after nearly losing everything because of drugs.
Now, when you were doing your leaving cert, were you using cocaine regularly?
Yeah, so by the time my leaving cert came around, I actually used during my leaving cert. By that time I had been sneaking out of my house during the weeks to go to college parties and stuff like that, because the college local to me I would have known a lot of people from dabbling in drugs around there, and I would have been going into school hungover, going into my leaving cert, then sitting my maths exam completely out of my head. No real recollection of what went on during my maths exam, not really any remembrance, but just remembering being there and being out of my head and asking myself, how did I get here and why was I doing it? But I had no control over it anymore.
Now, when you went on your leaving cert holiday, you were in Croatia. Were you able to obtain cocaine over there? Were you using while you were on that holiday?
Yeah, so that was the holiday for me. Like, to talk about it in the program, I crossed the imaginary line, I believe, when I was on that holiday. So that's when my using got really bad, because I was obviously on my own and there was no family around and I didn't have to hide that anymore. I went over for 10 days and I used for them 10 days, and I was constantly lying to my family when I was over there, saying I need money for a taxi, I need money for this, because I just spent all my money on cocaine over there. And I didn't sleep for 5 days, and I went through bad psychotic events and stuff like that. And it was honestly horrible. It was meant to be the holiday that you're meant to remember. And for me, I don't really want to remember any of it, because I think it was the big stepping stone and what was going to make or break me, and it did break me.
Now, when you were at home and you were actually using cocaine over that period before your leaving cert, how were you funding your habit?
So when I first started taking drugs, I wouldn't have been dabbling in big amounts. But when I seen how many people, when I actually came and got introduced to the environment and how many people were actually dabbling in cocaine, I seen it as a chance. If I just get a big bit in and sell something to someone else, I won't have to pay for what's mine. And that's how it all went at the start. But that only lasted for a couple of months for me. And then I was getting stuff to feed my habit. And then I was getting stuff for nobody at all. It was just myself. And I ended up in a substantial amount of debt when I finished school. I was in October, I got taken into hospital, and I'd been using drugs every day, and I'd no really understanding of what I was doing or how much money I owed. But when I got sobered up for the first time, I realised that I had owed 20,000, and I had to go to the credit union and get credit union loan, and I had to go get a bank loan, and I had to get family loans.
The low point for you, though, marked a turning point as well.
Yeah, so that wasn't enough for me, that trip to the hospital, to help me change. I swore to my ma when she was at the end of the hospital bed crying that I would change and I'd never do it again. But I was an addict, and I didn't know I was an addict, and I didn't want to believe I was an addict. So addiction had a hold of me, and I never understood. So I thought I could do it all myself. Like, I could do things myself for a lot of the time in life, but this was too much for me. And I kept going, and I went back out there, and things got progressively worse. I lost a number of jobs. I was in debt 24/7. There was people calling to the door, and it got too much for me. Then the year after, it was 2019 on Mother's Day, when I just had enough. I thought about suicide and all that type of stuff before, and I wrote suicide letters. And even before I was using, because I've always struggled with the head. It's always been a bit of a problem in my life, but today it's not, thank God. And that day, I was out for 3 days. I hadn't slept, and I just said, look, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. And I went to the Liffey, and I tried to take my own life, but by the grace of God, I was saved by a good friend of mine back then. He came back and found me at the side of the water with no clothes on, and that was the day something came over me and I knew I had to change. It was either keep going on the way it was and die as a 19-year-old who had so much potential, or go on and change my life and potentially change people's lives. And, I changed my life, and I am who I am today. And, I'm going to be 3 years clean this July. And, I help hundreds of people day in, day out, week in, week out. And it's all because of the program of recovery I live today. And I couldn't be more grateful for that event that happened in my life, because if that didn't happen, I don't know where I would be today.
Yeah. The ready availability of it, Conor, I mean, they always talk about alcohol. You can go to a supermarket and buy a slab of beer. You can go to a pub on every corner and you can get a drink. I mean, is it the same really with cocaine, that no matter where you go? I mean, you, a stranger in Croatia, you managed to secure cocaine quite easily. Is it the same all around Ireland?
Yeah, look, it's absolutely everywhere you go. And it's the thing with society nowadays. It's hard for the younger generation to get away from it. It's everywhere you go. You can hop onto your phone and it's quicker than ordering a pizza. It's one text message and you can have whatever you want. Regardless of cocaine, it can be any drug. You can get whatever you want nowadays.
All right, look, Conor, thank you very much for sharing your story with us, and some people listening may benefit hugely from your accounting of your experience, which happily has a very positive ending for you. But do you regard yourself constantly as a recovering addict? I mean, is the battle won?
So for me, it's a daily thing. I wake up every morning and I do a few bits, I do a few parts of the program, and I wake up every morning, and once I do my little parts of the program, I know the battle's won. It's just for me today. Today I don't want to use. Today I don't want to drink and do drugs, and I just take it day by day. And if I keep practicing the same principles that I've been practicing for the last 3 years, I know I'm going to be okay. I go to festivals, I go on nights out, I go to pubs, I go to nightclubs, and the thought of drinking drugs doesn't cross my mind anymore, because I live on a spiritual basis of life that suits me as a recovering addict. So yeah, I'm always saying I'm just recovering for today. I'll never be recovered or cured from the disease of addiction, and I accept that.
Well, Conor, once again, thank you very much for joining us on the programme. If you've been affected by any of the issues raised in our conversation, you can contact the HSE's Drugs and Alcohol Free Phone helpline, 1-800-459-459. And also you can contact Samaritans 24/7 on 116123.